Have you ever wondered why some handle loss better than others? Knowing the 7 stages of grief helps. From shock to acceptance, each stage has its own challenges. By learning about these stages, we can help ourselves and others heal from loss. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, a Swiss-American psychiatrist, first brought us the idea of these stages. They were once 5, but now have grown to 7. These stages help us understand and move through the deep feelings of a big loss. In this guide, we'll look closely at all 7 stages of grief. We'll offer tips on managing feelings and supporting others. Whether you're dealing with grief or aiding someone, knowing these stages can ease the journey. Introduction to the 7 stages of grief. The 7 stages of grief were first shown by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in 1969. She wrote a book called On Death and Dying. It talks about how we deal with grief. At first, Kubler-Ross talked about 5 stages. These are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Later, she added shock and testing. This made the model richer. It shows grief is complex and not straightforward. People going through grief feel many different emotions. These stages, shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, and acceptance, help us understand. They are a guide, not steps you must follow in order. Not everyone feels all these stages. Also, the order can change for people. It's normal to feel many emotions at once or go back to a stage you felt before. The stages help people understand their feelings when they lose someone. Grief can last weeks, months, or years. It's different for everyone. Holidays or anniversaries might make the sadness come back. This shows grief doesn't just end. It continues in its way. It's really important to get help when you're grieving. There are grief counselors and support groups. Therapy can focus on handling trauma and stress. For some, medicine may help with depression, anxiety, or trouble sleeping. People often talk about depression and acceptance as hard stages. But the 7 stages model isn't about putting feelings in boxes. It's about understanding our complex feelings when we grieve. The COVID-19 pandemic has made this even clearer. It shows we need to find new ways to live and heal. In the end, the 7 stages of grief guide us through loss. They offer support and help us move toward healing no matter the challenge. Shock, the first stage of grief. Shock is often the first feeling when we lose someone close. It shows up as disbelief and numbness. It's like a shield for our minds. This shield stops us from feeling too much too soon. During this time, people might feel cut off from their own feelings. It's hard to understand how big their loss is. This step is key in coping with loss. It gives a break to slowly understand what happened. Many people have physical and emotional signs during this shock. They might feel empty, mixed up, and lost. For some, these feelings are so strong they can't do daily tasks. This early stage of grief prepares for what comes next. Recognizing the loss lets us move through other grief stages, like denial and sadness. Moving through this stage helps to handle feelings better later. Denial, refusing to accept reality. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross introduced the denial stage of grief in 1969. It often comes right after the shock of a loss. People in this stage don't want to accept what's happened. This is a natural way to protect oneself. Denial gives people time to slowly face their loss. People in denial might feel numb or not believe the loss is permanent. They may stay away from things that remind them of the loss. Or they might put off dealing with duties. This is how our minds help us not feel the full pain at once. Taking time for denial helps one adjust to a new reality. But it's important to move past denial to heal deeply. Dr. Amy Daramis suggests writing in a journal or picturing the future. Healing takes time. Seeing a therapist can also help a lot. They guide you through your feelings toward recovery. Denial is not about being weak. It's a necessary step in dealing with a big loss. It's okay to feel sad, mad, guilty, or anxious. Facing these feelings is part of healing. With time, people can accept their loss and find peace. Anger, dealing with intense emotions. Anger is a common feeling during grief. It shows we are moving from shock to understanding our loss. This anger could be towards anyone, even ourselves, as we deal with feeling stuck. It's key to admit we're angry when we're grieving. Not doing so can make our grief last longer. We should talk to loved ones, exercise, or get counseling to help us cope. Anger might feel very strong and confusing at times. Knowing it's a normal part of grieving can help. By expressing our anger, we start to heal and accept our loss. Helping someone angry because of grief needs kindness and patience. Let them share their feelings. Remember, grief can make us return to feelings like anger. That's normal and okay. Bargaining. Searching for answers. Bargaining is when people try to make sense of loss. They may make deals with a higher power. This is to try and reverse what happened. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote about this in On Death and Dying. Now, people often think about what if when they lose something. They might ask, what if things were different? This is part of dealing with loss. These thoughts offer some relief from pain. To cope, it helps to recognize these thoughts. It's also good to accept the loss. And think about how to remember the one who's gone. Acceptance is finding peace with the new reality. But first, people look for answers in bargaining. Depression. The deep sadness in grief. Depression and grief is a deep and often overwhelming emotion. It happens when we truly realize our loss. It brings intense sadness and pulls us away from daily life. About 7% of grieving people feel this for a long time. This stage makes us feel empty, lonely, and hopeless. For older adults, it's even more common. Up to a quarter of them feel this deep sadness, especially older women, who often need extra help and understanding during this time. The link to the person we lost affects how deep our sadness goes. Losing a child or spouse can make the sadness last longer. The DSM-5 says if grief lasts over a year, it's a serious condition. The WHO says that if grief goes on for more than 6 months, it might be prolonged grief disorder. Handling this sadness means accepting it and asking for help. Signs can include not caring about hobbies, feeling worthless, or having harmful thoughts. It's important to have support from family, friends, or professionals. But there's hope. Research shows a treatment lasting 16 weeks can help a lot. Support from doctors, psychologists, or faith leaders is important. The pandemic made us realize how much we need strong support networks. It's especially true for older people who face more loneliness now. While depression and grief is tough, understanding it and getting support can lead to healing. Knowing sadness is part of healing helps us move on. It helps us find peace and a new sense of balance. Testing. Exploring new options. The testing stage of grief is a key time. People begin to find new ways to cope with loss. This phase was first talked about by Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in 1969. It is important for trying new things and adjusting to changes. It helps people start to heal. During this stage, people start looking for ways to deal with daily life. They might change their routine or try new hobbies. These new activities can bring them happiness. This stage helps people feel in control again. It's empowering. It's important to know that grief does not follow a straight path. Everyone's experience with grief is different. It can take a long time to get through. Grief can make people feel very tired or unable to sleep. It can also change what they want to eat. Taking care of oneself is very important during this time. Getting help from a grief counselor can be a big help. Counselors provide tools and support for those who are struggling. The testing stage encourages people to find new ways to live. It helps them adjust to life without their loved one. By accepting this stage, they can start to accept their loss. Moving through grief becomes a little easier. Acceptance. Embracing new reality. Accepting grief doesn't mean you're okay with the loss. It means knowing the truth of what happened. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross introduced the grief stages in 1969. She said that acceptance is the final stage. It's when you get used to a new way of living. Dr. Sarah Gundel added more stages to the model, making 7 in total. She said grief isn't simple. People's feelings can change, especially on important days. For example, they might feel shock or denial on anniversaries, leading them to anger again. When accepting grief, people often feel safe. They stay in the moment and look for new meanings. At this stage, they can handle their feelings, care for themselves, and be kind to themselves. To reach acceptance, it's good to give yourself time. Creating special rituals helps. It's also good to have support from friends and family. Planning for the future bit by bit is important too. Focus on the good things in life. This will help you embrace reality and move on. How long the grieving process lasts. Grieving is very personal and can last for different amounts of time. It depends on the person's character, the loss's impact, and how the loss happened. Some might feel better after a year, but for others, it takes longer. The stages of grief, first described by Elisabeth Kubler-Ross, have grown from 5 to 7 stages. This shows how complex grief is, and that it doesn't have a set time. Grief doesn't follow a straight path. People might feel several stages at once or miss some. Grief can come back even years later, triggered by memories or special dates. Though brief, these moments can be very strong. There are ways to help with the grieving process. Connecting with others, getting help from professionals, and creative activities help. Keeping healthy through sleep, eating well, and moving is also important. Grief is shaped by culture, personal experiences, and the relationship to the person who died. Anticipatory grief happens before someone dies and can make later grief shorter. Yet complicated or unresolved grief can make the process longer and harder. It's important to know that grieving takes time and is different for everyone. Giving oneself the time and space to heal is key. We all have our own ways of dealing with loss. Types of grief. Grief is a complex emotion that shows up in many ways. It affects people differently. Knowing about these grief types helps us understand and help with their challenges. Anticipatory grief happens before an actual loss. For example, those close to a person who is very sick might feel this kind of grief. They prepare themselves for saying goodbye. Normal grief includes feelings like sadness, anger, and finally acceptance. But sometimes, grief gets very intense and lasts too long. This is called complicated grief. It makes daily life hard. People with complicated grief need help from experts to get better. Persistent grief is when sadness sticks around much longer than usual. It can come from not solving past problems or from a really sad loss. It's important to know the difference between these grief types. It helps us give the right kind of support. Therapy, especially CBT, can help people with complicated grief by changing negative thoughts. Grief touches everyone, but we all go through it in our own way. There are grief types like feeling guilty for surviving, causing something, or not fulfilling a role. These feelings make recovering from grief harder. Recognizing these feelings helps us care for people in grief better. We can then offer the special support they need. Supporting yourself through the 7 stages of grief. Going through the 7 stages of grief is tough, but you can support yourself. These stages are shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, and acceptance. They were first talked about by Elisabeth Kubler-Ross in 1969. It's important to know grief doesn't go in a straight line. You might go back and forth between these stages. Shock is the first reaction to loss. It can stress you out a lot, which isn't good for your body. To handle this stress, try deep breaths, sleeping well, and drinking lots of water. After shock, you might not want to believe what happened. This is denial. Staying mindful and talking to friends who care can really help during this time. Then you might feel really angry. This is a normal part of grieving. You can help manage your anger by working out or writing in a journal. Next is bargaining. You might try to find reasons for your loss. It's tiring. Being kind to yourself and doing things that make you happy can ease your mind. Depression can make you feel very sad and hopeless. If this happens, talking to a therapist, joining a group, or even medication might help. Eating healthy and doing something creative are good for you too. In the testing stage, you start to look for ways to move on. Setting small goals and celebrating when you reach them is helpful. Finally, there's acceptance. You begin to feel okay with your new normal. Remembering your loved one and finding joy in little things help you during this time. Acceptance means living a full life, even though you miss someone. Grieving is really personal. Give yourself time and space to heal. Using these self-help strategies can make you feel more at peace over time. Supporting others through the grieving process. Helping someone who is grieving means showing empathy, patience, and understanding. We begin to help by acknowledging their pain and being there for them. Remember, everyone's experience with grief is different. Listening is a key way to offer support. Letting someone share their feelings without judgment shows you care. Small acts like a nod or eye contact mean a lot. It's important to respect each person's way of grieving. Avoid saying things that might hurt them. Instead, say things like, "I'm here for you," which can really help. Doing practical things can also help a lot. This might be running errands or making meals. Actions like these show your dedication to their healing. Encourage them to talk about their feelings and memories. It helps them to heal. Some people might need extra help. About 10-20% of those grieving might get stuck in their sadness. For them, counseling or groups like GriefShare are great. In the end, both emotional and practical support matter when helping someone grieve. By being there, listening, and showing respect, you provide the help they need. Grief counseling: when to seek help. Grief is hard and can make you feel overwhelmed. It makes many people want to get help from a pro. 45.2% show sadness and cry a lot, and 34.4% feel shocked at first. Knowing when to get help is key to feeling better. One sign that you need help is when grief doesn't go away. About 13.5% have trouble moving on after someone dies. This is especially true if the death was sudden. Then, 56.7% might face long periods of grief. Feeling really guilty or angry are also signs you might need help. 18.9% of people feel guilt, and 22.1% feel anger. If you are very tired, 27.8%, and it's hard to do everyday tasks, get help. Women and older people often feel this way more. Without help, you could feel worse, like very sad or even think about suicide. Your health could also suffer. Getting help early is important to avoid these problems. Bereavement counseling helps you deal with your feelings and find ways to cope. It helps you heal. Getting support from professionals, family, and friends is crucial. It helps you through the tough times of losing someone. Grief support groups. Finding community. Grief is very personal. Finding others who feel the same can help a lot. Grief support groups provide a place to share and support each other. There are many group therapy options for grief. By the Bay Health offers an 8-week support group series. There's a short phone call before you join. Family members of hospice patients with By the Bay Health get a free group series within the first 13 months after their loss. There are groups for different types of loss. These include groups for bereaved parents, those mourning a pet, and seniors. Those dealing with sudden loss find these groups very helpful. GriefShare runs large support networks with weekly groups worldwide, both in person and online. You can join at any point in their 13-week cycle. These groups help anyone grieving a death. The cost is low, making it easy for many to join. Programs like the Center for Living with Dying and Hospice of the Valley offer many group topics. They help with various grief aspects and also offer one-on-one counseling. This helps with both shared and personal grief. Places like Cara and Pathways Hospice add more support options. Cara has peer counseling and a free camp for young people aged 6 to 17. Pathways Hospice has groups for different types of loss, plus workshops and events. The Compassionate Friends of Santa Clara County has a monthly group for parents who have lost a child. They also offer national help on their website. No one should face grief alone, thanks to these support networks. Helping children navigate grief. When a child loses someone they love, it's important to help them through their sadness. Kids might feel really upset one minute and okay the next. It's key to notice these changes to support them right. Most kids know about death, maybe from TV or books, but they understand it differently at each age. Young kids might not get that death is forever. They could think the person will come back. They might start wetting the bed again or talk like they're younger. It's important to help them talk about their feelings. Reading books about death together can help start conversations. Talking about death with kids should be simple and honest. Using confusing words can make it hard for them to cope. For example, saying a pet went to sleep might confuse them. It's better to be clear that the pet died, to build trust. Keeping a regular routine comforts kids when they're sad. Doing the same things each day makes them feel normal. It's key for them to feel safe and stable. Deciding to go to a funeral is up to the child. Some kids find it helps them say goodbye, but not all are ready. It's best to think about what each child can handle. Older kids get that death is final, but they still have a lot of questions. They need honest answers and to know it's okay to be sad. Things like the idea of heaven or planting a tree can be comforting. It makes them feel like the person's memory lives on. It's important for parents and caregivers to show healthy ways to deal with sadness. Kids often copy adults. Showing them it's okay to express sadness helps. Sometimes talking to a counselor or joining a group is a good idea. This is especially true if the death was very shocking. The main goal is to keep life normal while also being there for the child. Being open, using simple words, and supporting their feelings is crucial. Caregivers are very important in helping kids get through sadness and start to heal. Understanding and addressing grief triggers. Grief is a very personal journey. It varies a lot from one person to another. Grief triggers bring back intense emotions unexpectedly. They can be anything like a birthday, the scent of a perfume, or a special song. It's key to recognize grief triggers. This helps in managing the feelings they bring up. Triggers can show up at any time, even years later. We must learn to face these moments, not avoid them. Common triggers include meaningful dates and sensory reminders. Things like the smell of a favorite perfume or hearing a special song. It's normal to have these triggers. They are part of healing. There are ways to deal with grief. Letting yourself feel is one step. Holding in feelings can make grief harder later. Having plans for tough days helps too. You can spend time with friends or do comforting activities. Creating new traditions in memory of the person is helpful. You could light a candle or write them a letter. This makes you feel connected. It helps when facing the emotional waves of grief triggers. Managing grief is ongoing. It needs patience and kindness toward oneself. Learning about your grief helps you handle triggers better. While the pain does not go away completely, these strategies bring some peace over time. Long-term healing and moving forward. Grief is something we all face in life. It can come from losing someone, losing a job, a breakup, or other big changes. It's key to learn how to live with these losses. People find that healing from grief is unique to them and takes time. The concept of 7 stages of grief was introduced by Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. These stages include shock, denial, and more, up to acceptance. But these stages don't happen in a set order for everyone. Grief is personal and varies greatly. Not everyone experiences all the grief stages. How long one stays in a stage varies too. Things like your personality and support you have matter a lot. Also, different losses affect people in different ways. For about 6 months after a loss, grief feelings are very strong. This time can bring sadness, fatigue, and trouble sleeping. It's also when grief's emotional side, like feeling guilty or some relief, shows up. It's important to know what can trigger these grief feelings. Long-term grief means getting help, like counseling or joining groups. These supports offer community and ways to rebuild life. They help avoid grief lasting too long by sharing and understanding together. If grief is too much, getting professional help is important. Adapting to loss takes time, and being kind to yourself. Finding new joys and perspectives helps in rebuilding. Healing lets us honor our loss but also live with hope and strength. This way, we make a new meaningful life after loss. Conclusion. Embracing the journey through grief. Grief is very personal but also connects us. Elisabeth Kubler-Ross introduced the 5 stages of grief in 1969. Since then, it became 7 stages to show grief's complexity. These stages are shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, and acceptance. They show our pain and our strength to adapt and recover. Now, it's key to know that everyone's grief journey is different. Things like our background and how we cope affect it. Not everyone will go through all the stages or in the same order. Shock can act as a cushion while denial can protect us for a bit. Anger and guilt push us to look for answers. Acceptance and healing take time, with small but meaningful steps. In wrapping up, remember the importance of self-care. support from others, and maybe professional help. Doing things like making memorials, joining groups, and taking care of yourself helps. Grief might get lighter, but can come back during special times. Seeing these moments as part of your grief shows your brave spirit and willingness to heal.